Guys, we are so stoked to have you. Today, that was loud. Today marks, we have 2 more, not including tonight, 2 more clubs in Fishy of the year. Everyone go, aww. Yeah. We also have some guests with us tonight. Fishy, as you know, we have the graduating seniors going out of club, and that's really sad, it's really bummer, but we got to replace them with someone. And so we have upcoming 5th graders coming up. So give it up for the 5th graders. If you see someone and you're like, how on earth is that person in middle school? Good chance they're not quite in middle school yet, but they will be. So make some new friends. Today, we have a game for you guys. Logan spent probably an hour simply preparing for this game yesterday and today. He's really been just grinding on this one. So we are playing a game. It is affectionately called Mario Karts. Once we say go, whoever has the last remaining balloon still inflated on there, and it has to be on your ankle, on your leg still tied, then you win. Get ready, get set, go. Yeah. You got boots. I need to invite the winners of Mario Kart up to the stage. These are the men and women that had valiant efforts, came out victorious. Your prize is free pizza and soda all night long, all on us. All right, guys? Well done. Good job, guys. Well done. Take a seat.
So anything I say, I'm preaching to myself as well. But I want to define what envy is. And envy can be defined as sin of jealousy over the blessings and achievement of others. And so the blessings could be more of like the physical possessions that you have or that other people have, and you're like, man, I really wish I had that. The achievement of others would be more like opportunities. So say your friends they make starting on varsity, or they have better grades, or they have different things like that. Things that you wish you had, those would be the achievements. And I was thinking about a time that envy was really prevalent in my life, and it was probably when I was in high school. So I played basketball throughout high school, but my freshman and sophomore year, I had a basketball coach who did not like me. Like, I remember there would be times in practice I would shoot better than the other girls. I was faster than them. I played really good defense, and I still sat the bench for varsity, while a lot of my friends got to play on varsity. And it was not a fun time. Like, I was pretty depressed at one point. My closest friends, they got to play on varsity, and I could feel envy kind of twisting my heart a lot of the time, where instead of me being like, I'm so happy for my friends, I'd be like, they stole what was mine. Like, how dare they? This was supposed to be mine. I needed to be on varsity. Like, why is this not happening? And I allowed envy just to twist my heart. And it twisted my heart so bad I didn't look like who God wanted me to look like. And I know that's probably not just for me, right? I think envy probably affects most of us in our lives. Whether it's physical possessions where like someone has the nicer blue, they have the aloe sweats. For some of you, someone has a phone and you don't have a phone yet, right? We can be envious over that. Maybe it's like, man, this person is always dating someone and it never happens for me. Or these people have a really good family life and I wish that was me. Maybe they have better grades. Maybe they have the opportunities you don't. And so envy can creep into our lives. And I don't think this is just a struggle that we have in today's world, where we can agree that there's a lot of things we can grasp within our arm's reach, right? Like if I want something, I live in a world where I can probably go out and get whatever I want. But this problem just doesn't affect us for like the last 100 years. Envy is actually super prevalent in the Bible. And so a few weeks ago, I talked about Adam and Eve. They were God's first creation. They brought sin into the world. And this all happened within the first 3 chapters of the Bible. And tonight, I want to talk about how envy became a main character in the Bible. And this actually happens in the 4th chapter of the Bible. So this is a thing that is very, very prevalent to us. And so I'm going to talk about Adam and Eve's sons and how envy played a part for them. So I'm going to read for us from Genesis 4. And it says, Now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering. But on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. And so we have these 2 brothers. Cain is actually the older brother. And so he gets super ticked off when God accepts his baby brother's offering and not his. And if we look at it, there's a reason. Abel brought his first fruits, which means like his livestock, whatever was first, that's what Abel gave the Lord. Well, meanwhile, Cain gave just some of his fruit. Like it wasn't a really significant thing that Cain gave. And so he gets very angry, and we see envy start to creep into his life. And I want to read for you what God tells him next. And in verse 6 it says, Then the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. And God talks to Cain and he says, Hey, sin is right there. Sin's wanting to twist your heart. And he says, you still have power. You can rule over envy. Like envy doesn't have to win. But unfortunately, Cain lets envy rule over him. And he goes and he kills his brother, which is pretty insane. It's a pretty crazy thing that like the first 3 chapters of the Bible, it's God created the world and everything's good. And by the 4th chapter, siblings are killing each other over because God accepted an offering and not another. And I know it's a crazy story to tell, but I think it's true. Like we hear stories of when people start to listen to envy and they start to believe it like, I'll never be satisfied. I'll never be full unless I have that thing. Like I need it, I need it, I need it. And it can drive you to do some pretty insane things because envy is that powerful. And so we can see from the story, we can see probably from our own lives what envy likes to tell us. But I want to spend a second to see what God tells us about envy. So I'm going to read from Proverbs 14:30. And it says, A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. And so it says, we have a heart at peace, life will be good, we'll be full, everything will be fine. But if we allow envy to rule our hearts, we'll be destroyed. Which is pretty crazy that like most of the verses you read about envy in the Bible, it talks about it destroying us. Like envy is not a good thing. And so I think the question remains like, well, I know I probably shouldn't envy because I don't want to be destroyed, right? But what do I replace envy with? And the answer is we replace envy with contentment. And I think we can define contentment as this. It's having sufficiency in what you have. So being full and satisfied with what you have, whether earthly possessions or opportunities, because of what God has given you, and you have peace with it. So to be content is to look at what you have and say, okay, I may want more, or I may think I need more, but I can have peace because I know God has given me what I need. That is what God calls us to. He says, don't be envious, learn how to be content. And I want to read for you guys one more verse in the Bible that just kind of explains contentment a little bit better. So I'm going to read a little bit of 1 Timothy 6. And starting in verse 6 it says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many grief. And so we see that like we're called to be content because contentment is actually what fills us. Where envy says like, hey, you need all these things and that's what will fill you. But the lie that envy hints at is that nothing will ever fill you, right? You'll always need that next thing. There will always be something else to grasp. But the Bible says that with contentment, we have what we need. We can have peace with what God has given us. And so the takeaway I want for you guys to remember from tonight is don't be destroyed by envy. Be content with what God has given you. Because we know envy will destroy, but we know you can be satisfied and you can have peace in your life if you have peace with what God has given you. And I want to take a second right here to mention it's okay to want things. I think sometimes in the Christian world it can be like, hey, you have to sell all your things and go live with the poor. And I think some people like are called to do that. But I also don't think it's a bad thing for you to want things. Like if you're like, hey, I really want this cool hat, or I want these shoes, or I want whatever it is, it's not a bad thing to want. You can work hard to achieve that. The thing that envy has power is when it twists and it says like, hey, you need that and you'll never be happy in your life unless you have that. If you start to believe that, that's when envy starts to get in. So I want you to know like it's okay to want things and like try to achieve things. That's not what we're trying to talk about tonight. I think it's also important to remember that in verse 7, Paul says, we brought nothing into this world and we take nothing out. And if you guys are trying to hold on to the personal things that you have, like when we die, we don't get to take those things. And if that takes up our time and our energy, we've missed out on living, right? We've missed out on relationships. We've missed out on time with God because I've been so focused on getting things that don't necessarily matter as much. And I just want to go back to the story I told you guys about in high school. Because for a while, I did let envy rule. I was not a good person. I just was not in a good space. And me and my friend Abby, we were in the same situation. And I think one day God posed a question on my heart of like, how can you be content with what I've given you? Because I don't think the question is like, should I be content? Why should I be content? But it's like, how do we be content? Because if it's destruction or being content, I think we choose contentment, right? And so I started to ask this question, and me and Abby decided that like, hey, let's make it fun. Like it sucks that we're on the end of the bench and coach pulls us in for the last 10 seconds of a game. But it's like, let's have fun. Let's try to make the most of it. And so we became the best water girls you've ever seen, which I think helped with my heart because I saw my friends and I was like, they're terrible. They've taken what was mine. Instead I had to be like, okay, they're really thirsty from the game. Like I have to go give them water. I could get 6 cups at one time. Like I was pretty skilled at this. But I think it was a time for me to be like, okay, this is what God has given me. I can let it destroy me or I can make something out of it. And I can have peace where I'm at. And so I know saying, hey, be content. Don't be envious. It's not just a quick fix, right? It's not like you're going to walk out of these doors and be like, I'm never going to be jealous again. Like, things will happen, but I hope in small group tonight you guys can start to ask these questions and you can start to think about, hey, when envy starts to creep in and it wants to twist my heart, how can I retrain my brain to be content and to have peace with what God has given me? Because we serve a really good God and He loves you and He does give us enough.